even if it is just a communication issue, let's pretend that John Fetterman is brilliant in his ability to read and reason, and then he has difficulty translating that into the spoken word. That's still a really big deal. Buck, if you or I had John Fetterman's illness, we wouldn't be able to do this job. That's not because iHeart would hate us. That's not because we were victims. It's because our job is to verbally communicate with people every single day for hours at a time. That's kind of the job of a United States Senator, too. The fallout from the disastrous Fetterman debate continues. And the Dr. Oz campaign, the latest defense of John Fetterman is that what happened was the closed captioning that they requested was not working well enough. And that is why John Fetterman was such a disaster. And the Oz campaign this morning fired back and said, okay, I'm paraphrasing here. We feel awful that, the closed captioning wasn't working like you wanted it to work. We're happy to have a second debate. You just tell us, when and where, and we'll be happy to have that second debate. And Fetterman was so bad. Initially, Buck, they tried to defend it. I read some of the ridiculous quotes from the New York Times and the Philadelphia Inquirer yesterday. But now even CNN is pointing out, you know what? This was kind of a disaster. This is CNN's Dana Bash discussing the fact that Democrats in Pennsylvania are a little bit nervous and disappointed and feel cringy after that debate performance. Listen.
Democrats I'm talking to in all candor are a little bit deflated, a little bit, feeling sort of cringy at the performance, but they are definitely trying to take solace in what you just heard from John Fetterman tonight, that the idea of abortion is huge in Pennsylvania and that Dr. Oz stepped in it.
No.
This is desperation.
Yeah, so desperate, so preposterous. I mean, this is a moment in time where you see that even the Democrat base cannot be fully convinced on this issue, right? Now, that doesn't mean they're not going to vote for Fetterman. They are. And that alone, I think, is an indictment of the people that have been supporting Russia collusion stuff against Trump for years, the people who have been saying all of these defend democracy lines, right? They're defending democracy by putting a guy who clearly has a brain impairment. I mean, that is what this is. He has a problem with the functioning in his brain. And you might have noticed that the New York Times has come out now. And now I think it's, Clay, the media for years now has effectively, CNN's a perfect example of this. We know who they are, okay? They're leftists, they're libs, they're not neutral, they're not nonpartisan. Journalism as a profession of people that's supposed to be, down the middle, presenting the facts, that's laughable. No well-informed, honest person can believe that. Experts in the medical field now, the ones who want to be on TV at these places, view themselves as just another part of the left-wing army. And that's why you have experts coming forward, cited by the New York Times, medical experts saying, well, this is just an issue of the way he sounds, not the way he processes. And let me say, I guarantee any one of those doctors that are being quoted in the New York Times, whatever, Clay, they were for lockdowns, they were for double masking, they were for maybe trying goggles when Fauci brought that up, which everybody forgets now, but it was going to be double mask, goggles, gloves. You were going to look like you're scuba diving when you're going to buy some grapefruits. They've let all that stuff go. We're supposed to forget about all that now. But, they've been lying about Biden the whole time, too. I mean, Tucker saw this. I saw a clip of Tucker from last night. I knew that everybody in our sphere, political commentary, was going to talk about not just Fetterman, but the opening, too. Hello, everybody. Good night. I mean, it was really off-putting, right? But the notion that Joe Biden has a stutter, And they're trying to use the language of the victim here, the language of ableism. Oh, it's ableism to say that Fetterman can't. It was ageism that they were trying out with Biden. Joe Biden doesn't have a speech impediment. This is offensive to people who have actually had to struggle with and still struggle with speech impediments to this day. And yet Clay, they don't care. They will lie about anything. It doesn't matter how obvious. It doesn't matter how pathetic.
And even if it is just a communication issue, let's pretend that John Fetterman is brilliant in his ability to read and reason, and then he has difficulty translating that into the spoken word. That's still a really big deal. Buck, if you or I had John Fetterman's illness, we wouldn't be able to do this job. That's not because iHeart would hate us. That's not because we were victims. It's because our job is to verbally communicate with people every single day for hours at a time. That's kind of the job of a United States Senator, too. And I'm sure, Buck, there are tons of people out there listening to us right now who are smarter than us when it comes to processing information in their heads. But they probably are not as good at verbalizing that information. That's why they're not on the radio and they have other jobs, right? So this idea that you should be able to have any job despite what conditions might occur and be causing you to have an issue in a job is just, it's ridiculous. People aren't saying that John Fetterman can't find a job, just that he's interviewing for one of the most important jobs in the state of Pennsylvania, and he can't fulfill the basic qualifications to do that job, which is kind of a big deal.
Oh, this is a Kavanaugh moment with regard to media credibility. And there were so much when we all recall Kavanaugh back in 2019, right? We recall. I'm sorry. Yes, that's right. Was it 2019, 2018? I always forget.
2018, maybe. I can't
might
remember.
Have been 2018.
Yeah.
Anyway, we all remember the Kavanaugh.
It was 2018 because it was right before the midterms.
That's right. We all recall the Kavanaugh situation, though, where all of a sudden the media in lockstep, and we say the media, we mean the Democrat media. One of the dumbest things you'll hear from people is, "Oh, you and Clay are in the media too." It's like, yeah, we're 5%. We're in the 5% of media that doesn't go along with all this. Okay,
we're the Rebel Alliance.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, you're just part of the empire too. No, we're not. Shut up. So here's the part of this that I think is the comparison point. Remember they were all saying credible allegations against Kavanaugh.
Oh, yeah.
They hijacked the term credible allegation. If it is credible for a person to make an allegation that has never been made before, that is 30 years old, that has no evidentiary basis, that has conflicting testimony from the only person who says anything whatsoever, that cannot prove the person was even in the same place, that they ever met, that they ever talked or touched or anything. If that is credible, anything is credible. Right? That I assassinated Abraham Lincoln is credible.
Judgment. It's not an unbiased coverage when you say this is a credible allegation because you're giving the stamp of I believe it when you say it's credible.
And remember the media was playing this game as well for a while, Clay, without evidence. Yeah. They used to just throw this in. Anything Trump said. Trump claims blah, 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 without evidence. They would just throw without evidence all the time. And these are all techniques of propaganda. This is all stuff that is meant to bring about a result in the audience instead of convey information. And you're seeing it with the Fetterman stuff. If it's okay to say that Fetterman is okay, you can say anything. You'll tell people Republicans will make inflation worse. Based on what?
I actually would have more respect for Pennsylvania Democrats at this point if they just said what I think is the truth, which is we so desperately want to control the Senate that we are going to vote for anyone against Dr. Oz and nothing else matters. If Fetterman could be dead and we would still go out and vote for him.
I was going to say, the Democrat Party of today, this is not an exaggeration, would vote for a candidate in a coma. Yeah. They would do it.
Look,
they
at
would
least
say a
that would
staffer
be
will vote the way we want him to. The staffers will vote the way he's supposed to. That's it. They don't care.
Because if you watch that debate, and I would still encourage, I bet a lot of people listening to us right now have not watched that debate. This weekend, maybe when you have more time, it's only an hour. It'll go pretty fast. you should go watch it for yourself because it is the single worst performance that I have ever seen in an American political debate. And the idea that you would be able to defend that in any way as anything other than disqualifying is straight propaganda. The fallout continues from the most disastrous performance in a debate I have ever seen. John Fetterman, there is an article up on NBC. So they are still parsing the disaster that was that debate. And some of these quotes you're going to enjoy them, but they're also pretty wild. So Chris Kofinas is a veteran Democrat campaign strategist. Here's what he said in the NBC article. He should not have debated. Anyone on his team who agreed to a debate should be fired or never work again because that debate may have tanked his campaign. Other quotes. There are senior Democrat aides saying, well, this is Carrie Mosley, a Democrat consultant and grassroots activist in Pittsburgh. Folks are pretty much freaking out on the Democrat side. Another anonymous source said, I really question the judgment that he continued with this race. And there are so many different people out there. Terry Madonna, longtime Pennsylvania pollster, didn't mince words. He said, the fact of the matter is his performance was obviously very questionable and it's just dominated the news. He said he's never seen a debate performance this bad. And Buck, this is funny to me because remember the early immediate response Democrat media tried to say, oh, it was a fine. Now I think they're starting to see the reaction to the debate come in from the public, and they're recognizing what a cataclysmic failure that was for their campaign.
Yes, this has been going on for months, okay? This is what the Democrats have created, an all-out, get power at any cost echo chamber. So anybody who would have, even for the purposes of self-correction within the Democrat Party, said, hey, guys, I think we got to think about this one. It would be shut up. Yeah. The Republicans are threats to democracy and, all the stuff that they always say, right? Oh, women's right to reproductive health choice freedom, also known as abortion. All of these things that they throw out there silenced anybody who was just saying the obvious. When you silence the obvious, which, by the way, is one of the great failures of wokeness. Wokeness always insists that you cannot say things that are obviously true. That's if you're going to be truly woke, you have to be willing to say things that are obviously false. They created this mess for themselves. I mean, the fact of the matter is they've known this. Anybody should have known this for months. I have a friend in Pennsylvania. I remember I asked about this like last June. I was like, hey, what's going on with this Fetterman guy? He's like, oh, man, you don't even know. It's like people knew that this was a disaster. People knew that he just had a severe stroke. And yet now they're turning around. It's a little late in the game is what I'm getting at here to do the whole, oh, man, I would have never allowed this to happen with the Fetterman situation. It's like, yeah, when your high dive champion belly flops and waddles out of the pool afterwards, it's easy to say maybe we shouldn't have had him in the lineup.
Good quote last night. I was out to dinner with some friends. Ted Cruz came into town, you guys know, because he was speaking, and Andy Ogle's is going to be the next congressman from my area of town. We had a great event last night in Franklin, Tennessee. But I went out to dinner with a bunch of people afterwards, and there were several political consultants there at the dinner. And one of them said something that I thought was really kind of summed up, because everybody was talking about the decision of Fetterman to debate and what a disaster it was at the dinner. And one of the political consultants said, candidates win elections, but consultants can lose elections. And John Fetterman's consultants lost him the election in that debate on Tuesday night.
Can I just
that was just it was dead and done.
Not to, stand up for the absolutely amoral lib consultants that are, I'm sure, surrounding John Fetterman, but was not debating at all really an option either. I mean, it's easy to say now it was such a disaster, but you won't show up for a debate. I mean, this is remarkable. It's like, okay, I actually told this beforehand. I've been told by friends of mine that know the legal system. They're like, look, if you get pulled over and you know you might have had a few too many, better, at least in New York, I think if you refuse to blow into the breathalyzer, you're getting a 6-month automatic license suspension, which is, it's a real penalty, right? But if you know you're going to blow and it's going to be over the limit, don't blow. Like, take the hit. So I think, in essence, that's what this would have been. Because not showing up to debate is like getting a 6-month suspended license. I mean, you can come back from that maybe, but that's not a good thing. But if you blow a 1.2, you're in a lot of trouble, right? So that's where we are.
Katie Hobbs is not debating in Arizona, and she's going to lose that election. And we just heard
would you be dead if you blew a 1.2? What is the limit?
I think it's 0.08. I think it's 0.1.
Oh, it's 0.1.
If 1.2% of your body was alcohol, you'd be dead.
Yeah. So
I think that's like formaldehyde.
Yes. I just want to clarify because people are like, Buck does. I have no idea. I barely drink, and I certainly never drink before I get in the car.
I'm pretty sure the number now is 0.08.
That's right.
I think that's the number.
So if you do a 0.2, I'm saying that's a bad thing. Right.
0.2 is like,
you're wasted.
There's an anesthetic level drunk where you'd be like, it's almost impossible for you to be able to move. But Katie Hobbs is not debating. You just heard from Scott Jensen, who was saying that Tim Walz will refuse to debate him. You would have taken
media focus though on those races. To be fair, right? The Oz thing is has been a national race for.
He would have gotten dinged more and more on it because of the health. But I don't think refusing to debate could have been as bad as being as awful as he was.
It could not have been worse, really, than what it was. I think that is true.
My question is, and I would ask this, and we'll talk about it, I think, continuously as we come up on the next 11 days. Was he so much worse than they thought? Because if they did a practice debate and he was that bad, I would think people would just say, yeah, we're not doing this. Was he actually even worse? They knew he was going to be bad. We're thinking about ridiculous audio. Fetterman is trying to argue that the captions didn't work, and that was why he sounded so ridiculous. But I think we have audio of Fetterman today trying to say Statue of Liberty. It didn't go well. Listen.
You talk about the liberty of statue has never had an inscription inside that said, send your tired Huddard masses and put them on a bus and turn them into a cheap political stunt.
He can't even say Statue of Liberty.
I mean, look, the fact that at this stage it's Clay, it's still going to be a close election. Can I just point this out? I mean, it may be in relative terms now a solid Oz victory, but it's not going to be like 70-30, 60-40. It's going to be probably what, 5 points, 3 points, maybe less than that, determining that election. Think about how many Pennsylvanians, unfortunately, who are in the grips of Democrat lunacy they'll just be like, better to have Fetterman, who obviously can't do the job, than give this guy Oz a shot. It's just about power, man. There's no principle involved here. There's no argument to be made anymore that can be taken seriously. You're going to have, even with Fetterman as he is, as you just played that audio, a lot of libs in Pennsylvania who are voting for him anyway. So for our people out there, including our independents, including our sane Democrats who are listening in Pennsylvania, you got to save your state's reputation here, folks. Come on.
No doubt. I mean, this should be a 70-30 win. You may not love everything about Dr. Oz, but the Senate's at stake. Everything is trending well, Buck. I understand not wanting to spike the football in advance, but boy, 11 days out. We come into you tomorrow, 10 days out. The weekend kind of slows down. Getting a little bit eager.
Every time Clay Travis starts just to high step it just a little bit, I'm like, Clay, stop it. Stop it. Not yet. Not yet.
You were asking me today who I thought was going to lose.
Yeah, I'm trying to find one person that you think is going to lose. I love that you're so
races,
optimistic.
I think the wave is going to carry us over in the close races.